Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Sarah, for a great conversation, and many thanks for showing us around your facility in Hong Kong. Next up, Sarah interviews Tobi Pearce. Tobi is the CEO and co-founder of Sweat. Sweat has become one of the most famous and recognized fitness apps in the world. It's the leading fitness application for female-based home workouts, anywhere, anytime. They truly have done an incredible job. Based out of Australia, they're a rising star on the global industry. And so without further ado, I'll introduce you to Tobi, and thanks, Sarah, for another great conversation.
Welcome to the World Health, Fitness and Wellness APAC Leadership Summit organized by the Fit Summit. Today we are joined by Tobi Pearce, CEO of Sweat. Tobi Pearce is the co-founder and CEO of Sweat, a global technology company in the health and fitness industry and home to the largest online female fitness community of more than 50 million women globally. Pearce has leveraged his personal training background and his knowledge in business and technology to reach global markets and ultimately provide a world-first health and fitness app for women in more than 155 countries. Sweat is currently one of Apple's largest grossing apps in its health and fitness category. Welcome to our online summit, Tobi. It is a great pleasure and honor to have you join with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Tobi, for joining us today. It is a great pleasure and honor to have you joined us today. Tobi, I'm going to straight away dive to the first question. 2020 has seen an explosion in the online and at-home fitness, fitness anywhere, anytime. You're a leading pioneer here. What lies ahead for this exciting market in the years to come?
Yeah. Look, I think the word exciting is probably correct. I think for us, we've always had a really big belief in this. I think honestly, I think that this pandemic that's taken the world by storm has not necessarily, started or kicked off this trend. It's really just accelerated it. I think it's an interesting time in the sense that, the barrier to entry to the market for at-home fitness content is obviously quite low. But I think the consumers are really starting to figure out exactly what their appetite is and what their expectations are for quality and consistency. And so, I think it's going to grow. It's going to get much bigger and much faster, and it's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much for answering that question, Tobi. It seems like the online world is like a whole new world, and there's unprecedented growth there. So congratulations to Sweat, and we are very excited for what Sweat has in the upcoming years. Let's move on to our second question. Once again, congratulations on Sweat's unprecedented growth. How has this journey been for you as a leader, and how have you stayed grounded as this rocket ship continues to fly?
Look, that is it's a really interesting question, and I think earlier on in my career, I pride myself on being a good personal trainer, and being a good personal trainer is fundamentally very different to trying to build and to grow an organization and be a leader to a team of people. So from my perspective, I think what's been able to make that easier and simpler over the years is really, I think, just having a keen focus on what actually matters and ultimately why we're actually here. And so for us in our organization, like our purpose or our mission is to empower women with fitness. And so I might not always be the perfect leader. I practice very hard at that. I practice to learn and study a lot, but I think ultimately our team can understand that regardless of what we're doing and whether or not things in the company are always going perfectly, because times are obviously difficult. This year is a good example of that as a leader, I think my ability to kind of bring everyone back to the reason why we're there is ultimately very important.
Thank you so much, Tobi, for sharing that. Absolutely agree with you. As a leader, being from the personal training side and now being a business leader, there's definitely going to be a difference. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let's move on to the next question. In the past, you've quoted 3 pillars of success: passion, hard work, and discipline. Reflecting back, are these still the same fundamentals for success?
I still genuinely believe that. I think if you take those words kind of in isolation, the meaning may not necessarily kind of be as easily understood. But I think that ultimately what you're passionate about and why you're here and what your organization is trying to do choosing to work hard at that and choosing to work intelligently at that through discipline, you're ultimately three key things that matter. I think, something that I would probably build upon that is that, ultimately all economic results, and, when I say that, I mean, business growth, so all economic results are earned through leadership. And so in relation to that, in order to be a leader, like, you must have people. And by virtue of that, a business can't be successful without great people. And so for me, I think, there's a lot of people will try to simplify and summarize, you've got to have this one thing or these two things or these three things to build the perfect organization. The reality is it's not that simple. I think passion, hard work, and discipline certainly matter. And, my build upon that today is ultimately that, people are an incredibly important characteristic of that too. And so, from us, we very much try to, make sure that our approach to that is genuine and significant. And we very much try to put our people first from an empathy perspective and definitely from a growth and development perspective.
Thank you so much, Tobi, for answering the question. I am personally going to be following the 3 pillars of success that kickstarted your business. So thank you so much for sharing it. Moving on to the next question. You own an incredible library of content. What content has proven most successful in 2020? And how are you further innovating and growing your content to meet the evolving consumer demand?
Look, I genuinely think that this notion of, COVID and its impact on the fitness industry is been in many ways kind of oversimplified. I think, obviously with respect to the other portion of our industry, the retail side, the retail gyms have had a very tough time. But ultimately, from a digital perspective, a lot of people are kind of just saying, oh, well, it's at-home workouts now. At-home workouts are the next most popular thing. But from our perspective, like, what does it actually mean? Like, what actually is an at-home workout? And for us, we've spent a lot of time and energy trying to, genuinely understand what the change in consumer behavior has been. And from our perspective and the learnings that we've had is, that working out at home consists of content that is ultimately minimal equipment and high intensity, or it might be, zero equipment and high intensity. We very recently added some yoga and bar content to our platform, and, the bar has been absolutely outstandingly successful. So I think from that perspective, yes, we have a very big library of content, for sure. But I think, for us, like, the absolutely zero equipment fitness content has been something that honestly we didn't necessarily expect. Because for us, historically, at-home workouts meant minimal equipment. But this zero equipment and definitely this new category of bar for us has opened up a massive array of opportunity.
Thank you, Tobi, for answering that. The zero and minimal equipment required for the fitness exercises that you incorporated in your app was definitely one of the best-selling fitness exercise among all your uptakers, I'm very sure. Moving on to the next question. What role has social media played in building the business, and how important has it been to the business and content partners you work with?
Yeah, look, the simple way I think of answering that for us, at least definitely in the early days, really was that we've always viewed, fitness as social. So what we mean by that is, if you look at a lot of the kind of historically really, popular and successful fitness products, you'll very often see that they're, either interactive, with one another, B, they're community oriented, C, they're challenge oriented. And a lot of those things, kind of the consistent theme is really that there's this social engagement characteristic. If we look to kind of the most recent examples of that, we've obviously taken a very big, front of that from a social media perspective. Strava has taken social media characteristics and implemented it into its own product, to kind of build that social and gamification-like experience. So for us, I think, conventionally, we believe that fitness is a social activity. And for us, we've obviously been built around that. We leveraged social media very early on to start our business. And so for us, we've always recognized that. And it's something that not only do we continue to use, but we ultimately try to find new ways to use, both on platform, as in our own platform, and off platform, in other people's platforms, such as the actual social networks and other people's organizations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tobi, for answering that question. Moving on to our next question. You're at the forefront of fitness apps and technology. What investments are you making in tech that will further enhance your current offerings?
Look, I mean, I'm personally really, passionate about technology and product. And so this is always obviously an interesting topic for me by virtue of that. We just spoke a little bit about social, and community. That represents like one of our opportunities, very significant opportunities for us moving forward. And when we talk about building community, the purpose of that is really to create an environment where ultimately the member can be more successful, and as a result of that, we can be more successful as a business. So, in other words, how can we use technology to create community-like experiences to motivate her and inspire her and engage her on a regular basis? And then obviously from our perspective, we know that someone who's motivated and someone who kind of continues to engage in activity is ultimately, they are more successful on their fitness journey as in they get better results depending on whatever goal it is that they have. And ultimately they become stickier users because they do get better results. They want to, they're incentivized to continue training with us. I think alongside that, for us, for our industry in general, for content as an industry in general, and definitely in our organization, we look a lot at this notion of personalization and customization, and how does that differentiate and how does that work? And so for us, I think, if we take a step back, what are we really doing? We're creating, fitness experiences for women on a one-to-one basis. The kind of conventionalized term for that would be personal training as opposed to, group fitness. And so if we're doing, this personal training kind of proxy experience in some regards, well, it needs to be personal. And so by virtue of that, if she's going to engage in a particular piece of content, we are not of the belief that that content is static, because if you went to a personal trainer to do a leg workout, and then immediately after that, your girlfriend went to do a leg workout with the same trainer, you would expect that will be different, based on how experienced you are, how capable you are, flexibility, injuries, all of these sorts of things. And so from our perspective, we're, very much leaning into ways that we can use technology to ultimately replicate that in real time in an automated fashion. But again, kind of centering back to like, how do we use that to make her more successful? The utility of creating personalized and customized experiences is not just for the sake of using cool technology. And I think in many cases, in many organizations, not just in fitness, that's where some people get lost. The new technology comes out and they want to create a cool experience for it. But ultimately the thinking is the wrong way around. It's not what is the cool technology and how can we use it to create a cool experience for a customer. The thinking should very much be, well, who is the customer and what job do they need to get done? And then how can we use technology to resolve that? And so we very much take the latter approach to genuinely resolving for her jobs that she needs to get done.
Thank you so much, Tobi, for answering that question. I like that short example that you gave whereby two women actually goes to the gym and have the same trainer and you're trying to replicate that using tech. Amazing example. Moving on to the second last question. What's the most important problem to solve for consumers in the fitness industry?
If we are really sharp in the way that we respond to that question, as in, so, what's the most important problem for consumers, to solve, as in, and so the reason why I emphasize that is it's not just like, what does the industry need or what do the businesses in the industry want, right? The reason I separate that is because obviously in this particular case, we're effectively, we're coupling people's health and life together, right? And so if we're genuinely going to put them first, it needs to be a customer-centered decision, not necessarily what's best for the bottom line in businesses. I think for where we are today, and ultimately where the industry, regardless of the manifestation of experience or product has been previously, why does the fitness industry exist, right? The industry at its core exists to facilitate a need, and that is that the need that people want and or need, have a requirement to engage in physical activity for the purposes of improving and or maintaining their health. And so the largest problem that exists in that experience, in my opinion, unequivocally so, is really actually getting people to engage, right? So if we go back kind of the longest amount of time in this space, whether it's a big box gym, whether it's a 24/7 gym, whether it's a boutique, whether it's a fitness app, if you're buying equipment that comes with a workout video or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, right? The problem still remains that well and truly in most cases, a significant portion of people that engage and in almost all cases pay for these services don't actually ever use them. Mm-hmm. And so that actually presents the largest risk to consumers in the essence that they are all showing up wherever it is that they're showing up or whatever it is that they're showing up to. They're all showing up with the world's greatest intent, no one pays for a product with the intent to not use it, right? But actually then being able to engage, that's the biggest opportunity. That's the biggest opportunity that we have as an industry, to provide a solution for a problem for our consumers. I don't think there's necessarily one solution to that. I think there's a variety. But ultimately, it is our obligation to use the special knowledge and resources that we have to positively add value to people's lives, in relation to their health and their fitness. And so we should really be making sure that we're focusing on trying to resolve that problem for them, because it's the biggest thing. If you don't start, then you can never get results, right?
Thank you so much, Tobi, for answering the question. We're now down to our last question, which is a very interesting question. What does the fitness industry look like for you in 5 to 10 years? Where does Sweat fit in?
Well, look, if you had to take a really big picture view at the moment, and even for the recent past, I would suggest that the industry is kind of categorically divided into several groups, and maybe there's a few others, but at a macro level, there's the retail portion of our industry, so the gyms and boutiques. There's the hardware portion, so companies actually selling equipment regardless of whatever it is. And then there's the digital or content piece, and so they're not necessarily all mutually exclusive. Obviously there is hardware in gyms that has or serves content, right? So there's ways that they go together, but categorically they're sort of the main several themes. And so I think if we remove COVID, as in, because it will eventually move on, there is always going to be a world for retail, because not everyone on the planet is going to have a gym in their house. There's always going to be a world for hardware purchases for individuals. And by virtue of there being a market for hardware, there will always be a market for content and or experiences. I personally think, and our organization is very much behind the fact that, content is king, for us moving forward, and certainly for a lot of organizations. I think that, a few of the next largest opportunities and newer opportunities in our industry really exist in the ability to produce a lot of high quality content that is ultimately engaging and fit for purpose for the customer, as I mentioned before, to allow them to kind of get past this 0 to 1 problem, right? How do we get you to engage for the first time? And I think ultimately the companies that can do that, and do all of that, together in one, will ultimately be the ones that are most successful. And so from our perspective, Sweats, we've always been digital first, and we're very much going to continue to lean into that. And for us, a lot of that's going to come through content. And so we're really, really aggressive on that right now. We've done a huge amount of that this year, and we've done a huge amount of that even as recent as 2 weeks ago. We brought a whole bunch of content onto the platform, and I think for us in the short to medium term, that's definitely what it looks like. And when I say short to medium, I'm sort of talking 3 to 10 years. I definitely think that's where the opportunities will be.
Thank you so much, Tobi, for your time. Again, let me tell you, I'm a big fan here of Sweat. It is a great honor and pleasure to have you join with us. Do you have any final words to say to our delegates who are watching this online at home?
Sure. Yeah. Look, thank you so much for having me as well. Obviously always very happy to get behind our industry and sort of touch base and connect with everyone, in each of the roles that we play. I think in closing and in summary, from my perspective, I'd just love to kind of provide my love and my empathy to everyone in our industry. This year for all of us, has been a difficult year, and it's presented, an array and a significant variety of different issues. For those of us that are in retail or in hardware that have supply chains, or that are in digital, it's not all roses and shiny for any of us at the moment. Harder for some, more than others, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, this too will pass. And I think if we can continue to lean into what matters, and that's keeping our customers happy and engaged, then everything will eventually kind of sort itself out. So everyone stay strong, keep safe, and good luck.
Hi Fit Summit, my name is Anthony Kelly. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Glowfox. We're delighted again to partner with Fit Summit. We're huge fans of the event, and big shout out to Ross and the team and everything that they do. They're exceptional. I was asked to give some thoughts on 2020, what a year it's been. I think the biggest takeaway from me has been how impressive the fitness industry was in terms of how it adapted to the environment that was the pandemic, how it continued to operate and ensure that it could provide service to the customers in such a challenging situation. And just in terms of how the bodies banded together to try and help each other, and how there was so much support out there between different groups within the industry, it was just so impressive to see. I think for me, 2021, I think is all about getting back to some degree of normality. And I think the fitness industry, more than others, is really well placed to hit the ground running. I think the pandemic has demonstrated how important it is to be healthy and to think about wellness within your life. And I think this movement over the last 10 years of wellness globally is not going anywhere. And I'm excited for what that year is going to bring for the industry, and excited for Glowfox and for our great customers and how we can continue to support them. So hopefully we'll get to do this again in person soon, and I look forward to meeting you all again, and have a great day, everyone.